Hey guys, so check out this plan that the math department has created for you. It's called Think, Plan, Solve. And you can apply this thinking strategy to solving any problem in any one of your math courses. Now, I've adapted it a little bit to suit business math. So there are 3 steps to solving any business math problem, okay? And you can apply this technique to any of them. So step 1, of course after you read the question, is just a thinking phase. So stop and think before you start working on the problem. And ask yourself, what is this question asking me to do? What is this question asking me to do? So that's where I would identify, what am I being asked to solve for? So for example, let's say you're asked to solve for hiring expenses. So you know, and you have the goal in your head, okay, I know I'm solving for hiring expenses. And I recommend even writing down your goal. So at the bottom of your page or wherever you're doing work, leave some space and then write hiring expenses equals, so that as you're working, you know you're done once you can fill in that line. Okay? Think about the information that is given to you. And think about whether it's relevant. So sometimes they'll throw extra information at you that you don't really need and it can confuse you. So determine whether all of the information you're given is relevant and record the information. So although it might be in a paragraph, I recommend just jotting down, writing it out yourself, each piece of the puzzle that you're given, okay? It can be kind of confusing and disorienting to constantly refer back to the problem to find information. So just note it yourself. Then consider what formulas you'll need. And this plays back into the information that you're given. So for example, let's say I'm solving for hiring expenses, there might be more than one formula that allows me to solve for it. So you would need to look at the information you're given, right? So if you had a formula that said hiring expenses equals A plus B, and another formula that says hiring expenses equals C plus D, look at the information that's given to you in the question, right? So if you have some question that tells you, oh, well, A equals this and B equals this, then you know that you should use that hiring expense formula that says hiring expenses equals A plus B, because they gave you that information. So don't make the problem harder for yourself, okay? Be strategic in the way you choose the formulas. And in many cases, you will need more than one. So organize them. Which one do you need to do first? Okay? So I recommend this step will only take you about 60 seconds, but it'll save you time in the end if you make a plan. The next thing you'll do is plan things out, right? So write down all the important information. If you want to, you can choose a variable for the unknown value of what you're looking for. You've already gathered your formulas. This is where you plug in the information. And if you have a table, make sure to use the information from the table, or if you have a graph, make sure to use the information from the graph, okay? So plug in what you've got, and then comes the solution process, right? So you know what I mean by that, so just solve for the variable. Now, make sure you round correctly. So in business math, in every single question, do not round until the very end of the problem, okay? Keep at least 5 or 6 decimal places for every number you get up until the answer, and then round as you're asked to round. Now, before you type in your answer and hit submit, ask yourself, is this solution what the problem is asking for? Is it reasonable? So at the beginning of this video I said, let's say we're solving for hiring expenses, so we know that's going to be a dollar amount. So if I get this solution that's a percentage, obviously I know I've gone wrong somewhere. So that's a cue to go back to the beginning and start over. Also make sure your answer is reasonable. So if we're talking about hiring expenses for like an entry-level employee and we end up with a number that's like $2 billion, well, do you really think this company spent $2 billion on hiring an employee that they're only going to pay $50,000 to? Probably not. So that's a really cool component of this class, is that you can often check to see if your answer makes sense with the context of the question. So again, start by thinking about the problem, focus on what it's asking you to solve for, and gather any formulas you need. Plan your attack, highlight and write down any information, and then plug in the information that is relevant to what you're trying to solve. And finally, just complete the solution process, but don't submit your answer until you've double checked that your answer is reasonable and that you actually answered the question being asked. Okay? Sometimes we get excited and we don't even answer the question fully. And of course, don't miss out on points by rounding at the wrong time. So make sure you don't round any numbers until the very, very end of the question. So use my think, plan, solve method in every single math problem in this business math course. It's a great strategy, and I think you'll find that once you get going on it, it makes things easier and it's a clearer way to organize your information.